Cool. So, we're back.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Stephanie.
And I'm Jeff.
And this is our sci-fi world.
You always give me this look when you do this. You're so excited, but so intense. I like it. Cover the basics?
Yeah, we are watching Supernatural. It's one of my favorite shows, and he's never seen it, so rewatch and a first-time watch. And then doing a podcast about it. But there is a catch, and I am going to have to watch Jeff's favorite show.
Right.
Season for season.
Season for season, we're going back and forth between Supernatural and Star Trek, talking about whatever happens, whatever comes up, dynamics, relationships, plot lines, the fact that this show is new for me, but she's seen it so much that she can quote it. And then we'll switch over to another show and flip the roles. So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the show by now, it's on you.
And
what am I missing?
I work in the film and TV
Oh, and yeah,
industry.
of course, that's the best part. And she works in TV and film, so it's a fun dynamic.
Yeah, there's some insider info. I'm just worried that that's going to spill.
I will move my drink. Anyway, so we are today doing season 1, episode 12 of Supernatural. It's called Faith. Stephanie's got a nice little intro.
So yes, it's called Faith. Original air date is January 17th, 2006. Written by Sarah Gamble and Rael Tucker. Directed by Alan Croker. Summary is, while battling a rawhead, Dean is electrocuted, resulting in permanent damage to his heart and leaving him with only a couple months to live. A despondent Sam searches desperately for a way to save his brother and believes he may have found an answer through a preacher who claims to heal the incurable. However, Dean and Sam discover that a preacher is getting help from the Grim Reaper, who is trading one life for another he feels is less worthy.
That says it's a Grim Reaper?
Yeah.
It does?
Did you hear my hesitation in my voice when I said
yes.
that? I mean, this summary is from the Supernatural Wiki, so I don't think it's the official one from the show.
Well,
but
that's where we go for facts.
Oh,
we don't come here for facts.
Don't come here for facts.
We go there for facts. Okay, so before we kick off, because there are a lot of different directions to start with on this one. But first off, we've got to do a corrections corner. Back a few episodes ago in episode 8, we did bugs. And I had a whole lot of questions about an entire state under one single utility grid. It seemed unusual, but we did find out because our listeners wrote in, all 2 of them, and they did let us know that, yes, the state of Oklahoma does have one central utility grid, so that was actually really great information to keep up with. So there's the corrections corner. Don't come here for facts. But yes, Oklahoma, write this down for Jeopardy, does have one singular utility electrical grid. There. Thank you very much. Okay. Where do we begin?
Well, opening thoughts, I guess.
Thoughts.
What are your overall impression
of the episode?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It seems like every episode they ramp up the intensity of, we're going to make you wonder what the hell's going on, and then deliver it by the end of the episode, which is fun. It was definitely fun, but again, they changed things this way that they haven't done previously, which I also enjoyed. First thing to mention, this is the first episode that did not give us any kind of location except for we're going to see this guy in Nebraska. Mm-hmm. They didn't give us a city-state at the beginning. They didn't give us an intro suspense establishing scene before the opening credits. Mm-hmm. Completely changed the dynamic of the opening, which again, I like the variety. It's really nice. That being the case, what is a rawhead, and why did we have this scene this way? We got to see, like, the end of a previous episode at the beginning of this one, basically.
Well,
was this anything other than a plot device?
Yeah.
To give Dean the heart attack? Yeah,
absolutely. The episode wasn't, like you said when we were watching it, we're just jumping in the middle of it. And the truth is, we weren't jumping in the middle of it because the episode was not about Sam and Dean saving these kids from this creature. This apparently is called a rawhead. I don't know if they even referenced that in the episode itself, but
I think they did.
And so yeah, that was just this is what happened to Dean, basically, thing. Now, it's funny because at one point when I rewatched this episode, it might have been when it aired, because for a long time Supernatural re-aired on TLC, and I would just be scrolling through channels back before Netflix and everything was a thing, and I just scrolling through channels, not finding anything, and I'd be like, oh, Supernatural's on. I just flip it over, and I remember at one point I watched this episode, the beginning, like in the beginning of it, I was like, I have no idea what this episode is. I don't think I've seen, this is insane. I know I've seen them all, but I don't know what this is. And it's because they did this like jumping in the middle thing, and I didn't remember this creature and these kids as being the monster of the week, because they aren't the monster of the week. And the reason why there was no location is because the boys didn't like, see a weird story in the newspaper that they had to go then chase down this monster. They were dropped into the middle of it, which is the faith healer that wasn't a faith healer.
Yeah.
They were there for a completely different purpose. They weren't investigating anything. They were there and caught in the middle of it.
Okay, so then should we talk about the Rawhead more, or just jump in? Because I had one observation that, and I don't know if it was just an accident or maybe it was just really good acting. I'm not sure. But before Dean, like when Dean was down on the ground, getting ready to fire the second taser shot at the thing, he looked absolutely terrified. Did you catch that? Usually Dean is very cool in the moment. He's like, okay, here's the thing that we got to do. So he's aiming up. He's the one who's punching the jokes. Because he's, I think we talked about this last time, is that he's cool under fire, probably because he's been through this so much in his life. But this time he looked actually scared.
I didn't notice.
You didn't notice it?
No, but,
okay.
I believe you.
It's always a really good conversation point when only one person sees it. Okay, so we can dive in to the rest of it. I just thought it was a really interesting way to do it, because we've watched them 11 times previous to this, give us the intro, the teaser, and then fill in the gaps as the episode goes through.
Yeah.
But they really did break this out.
We didn't find out that there was a monster to be taken care of until way into the episode.
Yeah. Okay, so then on rewatch, how did you feel about this one?
I do enjoy this episode, although I will say that my memory of it, I got it mixed up. Like I combined two episodes in my mind. One's in the future. And so I was thinking, because there's another episode in the future that, shocker, they deal with like God and angels and faith or whatever in the future of this show. And there is another episode early on in the series that I combined with this one. And so it became the combined version I had in my head, I like much better because it has two of my favorite things from two different episodes combined, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But so my second thing is, as an adult, I kept thinking 100 volts of electricity. I don't know how much that is.
Didn't you say it was 1,000?
Oh, 1,000. Sorry,
yeah.
1,000 volts of electricity when he was talking about these taser guns or whatever. 1,000 volts of electricity, and I was thinking, how much is that, and is it enough to damage someone's heart so severely that it's otherwise healthy, that they're going to die in 2 months? People get struck by lightning.
Well, not to mention, well, okay.
I was like, is that true? The adult of like medical knowledge came into play, as opposed to a teenage version of me who's just like, oh yeah, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously,
you could see the electricity, so obviously it's dangerous. Yeah, and I think I asked that while we were watching it too, because I mean, it wasn't just the 1,000 volts, but it was going through one being, through one creature, through the water into the second. So I expected there to be more, like the guns to be higher. But again, not a medical professional, not a taser gun professional, have no idea.
Not an electrical professional.
We just have to accept it.
Yeah.
We need to accept this one as is.
But I definitely never thought about that in my previous watching of this episode of like, is that actually true? Would that actually like do that and make this person like not be able to survive?
So do you, Stephanie, think this is more of an I'm growing older and more critical with my thinking or analytical? Or do you think this is more of I'm in TV and film, so I am checking continuity things?
I think that it's being an adult and being more aware of medical things. Because, I mean, when you're a kid, you don't really, like, kids are more reckless because they don't understand what can happen when they do things. They could get hurt and what the implications are there, what the cost of that is, especially here in America. So I think that part of it's becoming more of an adult and being more aware of health and medical things than you would be when you're a child. But there might be partially this film knowledge thing of like part of our job is to make things somewhat accurate if possible. And so I'm hoping the writers did some sort of research and understood that 1,000 volts is a lot, because all that they would have to do is change it to 10,000 volts, you know, whatever. Like it wasn't a hard fix if they did do the research. So there is that part of me that's like, did they look into that or did they just make that shit up?
Yeah. And we're going to pull back to the electricity thing a few times, I think. that's what I keep thinking about too, is like the only reference point that I have is back as a kid. Dad had cattle out on the land and the electric fence was charged. And I remember he played with that number through time. And that was literally the only perspective that I had about what this many volts will do to you. Because of course you get two boys running around a farm by themselves. They grab the fence accidentally or on a dare. And so even then it was a reference point, because if you're grabbing with like 3 or 4 volts, it's nothing.
Yeah.
You feel it in your hand. But when Dad cranked it up to, I think it was 25 volts, we need to double check this too, but it went all the way through your arm. You felt it shock through your arm.
So 1,000 is a lot.
I think 1,000 is a lot.
Okay, do we have any electricians or like jack of all trades people listening?
Or cop? What is the standard taser gun?
Well, but they modify their weapons.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
so
they modified the Walkman.
Yeah, they modified the shotgun shells to have rock salt in them. Like, they modify shit.
True.
So I'm not...
But what's the starting point? That's
true.
The part that I'm curious about.
Yeah.
I feel like we're missing the point of the episode entirely.
We've literally been talking about electricity.
12 minutes. And we're still talking about the taser that was in the courteous intro scene.
Yeah, that was in like the 3 minutes of the episode.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to fast forward us through to make sure that we move on. So Dean gets hurt. He's knocked out. Whether or not he was scared before he made the shot, we'll see. But they end up in a hospital. Dean has had a severe heart attack, and he is in a lot of trouble. Not enough trouble that he can't walk up and check himself out in the next 3 days. It does fit. It's on brand for Dean. As soon as the seat was in the door, I was like, oh gosh, you idiot. But it matches.
Yes.
So Sam, instead of going to the library to do his internet research now, has advanced to a laptop with hotel Wi-Fi, and has been doing research for 3 days straight. And so now we know where we're going and what we're doing. But this hits into the point. I wrote this down. I thought this was really, really interesting. That Sam, tell me if I'm wrong, Sam was recommended through one of Dad's contacts.
Joshua, yes.
To go see Roy.
Yes.
And so Sam says, hey, we're going. Not so much because he's a believer in faith healing or whatever, but part of Dad's network recommended this, so he's going all in. Mm-hmm. He is following blind faith. See what I did there? Following in blind faith, part of Dad's request. He's in essence following indirect orders. But then Dean is skeptical the whole time, and the fact that Dad pointed us in this direction, or one of Dad's contacts pointed us in this direction, he still remains skeptical.
I think you're reaching.
I see a flip here.
I think you're reaching.
I don't know, man.
Here's the thing. The reason why he goes for it is because it was recommended by another professional. Like somebody else in this world. So like if some random Joe Schmo's like, oh, there's a faith healer down there, Sam's gonna be like, okay, whatever the hell. But like if someone in their world is like, dude, this seems legit, Sam's like, okay, you would have already done your research. You're not gonna just say it offhand. You're not some, just believe type person, right?
Right.
So he's just trusting that person's already done their research, that this is like legit. It's not, a scam. Basically.
But I mean, It still feels like the impact that Dad was having that Jeffrey Dean Morgan was having over Dean to his following through, not necessarily obeying orders, but even within the influence of this came from Dad's world. Think back to Lake Scary Kid, episode 3, I think. Dean was pushing for that one. And he was like, hey, look, Dad has dropped us a sign in here. I think those were the GPS coordinates, I think. But he dropped that in, and so Dean was like, yep, we gotta go. We gotta go. This is Dad's thing, we gotta go. But now Sam is like, hey, this was...
because this isn't their dad telling them this. It's just someone within this world. Because they happen to know his dad, because Joshua happens to know their dad, doesn't mean that it's coming from Dad at all. All it means is that this is someone that's a professional within their hunting world. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that this is Dad's friend, so we got to listen to him. It's Dad's friend, therefore he's a professional. And so we can kind of go on that.
You don't think there's any influence in there
I
whatsoever?
don't think so at all. No.
Okay. I thought that was going to be a cool question time.
No.
Okay.
Sorry. I mean, he called Dad and Dad didn't pick up.
Yeah, that's true. Again.
I know. I bet you Jeffrey Dean Morgan was busy.
Well, now he's just screening because they've already talked to him. He's just screening the calls now.
Yeah, I think that Jeffrey Dean Morgan must have been on another show at the same time. That's my guess.
That's fair.
Knowing coming from the production side, we've had an actor in the show that I'm working on now. We have an actor who recently got a series regular. Do you know what a series regular is? Do people know what a series regular is?
I think that one's pretty clear.
Okay.
You can find it if you want.
He got a series regular gig, meaning he basically is on the show like full time every episode. And he got a series regular gig in LA on a show there. And he is still in our show over here in New York. And for the 3 episodes that we've had to deal with this scheduling thing, our schedule here in New York, because obviously being a series regular, they get first pick. And we have to fit into that. Our schedule has gotten screwed 3 out of 3 times having to get him over here. Like we had to go super late on Thanksgiving because he couldn't fly in till a certain time. So we had to start really late, not on Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving. Right. And there's another time where we had to like pull up the next episode to work a day early because this series regular person wasn't available to us until after our episode's already done shooting. Like it was just, we constantly were being screwed over. It's not the kid's fault. Truth be told, he should be written out of our show because it's just becoming ridiculous. That being said, this could be the case with Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Now, why do you say that he should be written out of the show? Because this doesn't sound like it's a reflection on his personhood. Like if we're going to talk about that conflict, let's dig in. Because what happens?
Because it costs money.
Okay, why? Because you have to pivot.
We have to pivot, and we have to. Also, there's a lot like last minute flights cost more money, and time is money. And so the more time that is spent on trying to figure all this out, the more money that's spent.
Well, not to mention, I'm also finding you kind of know this is real until you see it happen in practicality. But the difference between LA and New York, whenever you consider both the flight time and the time change, ends up being a real screwball whenever you end up in this like minute to minute world.
Oh yeah.
Where everything has to pivot on the fine details.
Yeah, the episode that we had to start late the day before Thanksgiving. Now, we get the Thursday and Friday off just like a lot of people do, but sometimes we're working until really late on like till 11 o'clock at night on that Wednesday, and so it really kind of screws you over to not be able to travel anywhere because a lot of people, shocker, that work in the industry in New York aren't from here.
Right.
So if they want to spend it with their families, they are going to have to travel elsewhere versus a lot of people. There's a lot more people working in other industries, in other places that aren't a major, huge city like New York City where they might just have to drive a few hours.
Sure.
We, if we're going to Michigan, have to fly to Michigan in order to get there.
Michigan being where Stephanie's from, not an arbitrary state. Yeah.
Yes. And so it's not something that's super easy to just to do. And it costs a lot of money if you're doing it last minute.
Right.
And so we wanted to start early around 7 o'clock in the morning and hopefully be done around between 6 and 7. Just have a shorter day and an earlier day. But the actor, who's a series regular, he could not fly out until after he was done shooting on Tuesday on his show, went straight from the set to the airport, got on a red eye, but then didn't land here didn't land because they're 3 hours behind, right? So if they leave, say it leaves at midnight, that's 3 a.m. our time. Then it's a 6-hour flight. So he's landing here at 9, and then he has to come. He has to go from the airport, come here, and get ready. So I think we ended up having
still
to take.
Looking at like a noon start time.
It was like 10 a.m. I think, but then all of a sudden, instead of getting out at like 6, 7, you're getting out at 10 p.m.
Right.
And we actually ended up going long that day too, unfortunately.
And that's if you can get somebody to come in on a red eye.
Yeah.
If you got somebody who says, no, absolutely, I just finished a full work day, I'm sleeping, I'll take the early morning out.
That's no.
Okay. I withdraw my statement.
No, I mean, there's a few people that would do that. They would be high enough in the food chain of like A-listers or whatever, sure, but that's not this kid.
Yeah, sure.
So
you're still talking half day lost, even in the most optimal situations.
Yeah, exactly. And the 3 episodes since he started doing that, we've had issues, and we've only needed him for 1 day, 1 out of 9 days, and we still weren't able to ever work it out that it just worked, and there was no issues. Every single time there was issues, and thankfully he is just a young man, but a lot of times, like, you have to fit somebody, wardrobe fitting, the day before, at least the day before.
Right.
But wardrobe didn't have that opportunity, and so they were just buying clothes that fit him and hoping that they worked out. And thankfully he's not a specialty situation really, but
in each of those situations that you're talking about the potential of a last minute flight. You're talking about time in wardrobe, time in hair and makeup, a lot of guessing work, which could mean it goes quickly, it could mean you have hang-ups, and all of the time you are second priority on this guy's schedule because he's got a series regular, because he's got a contract. Okay.
Yeah, it's not his fault at all. Lovely kid. It's just unfortunate. I mean, for example, one of the ways it could cost the company a lot more money is if you're in the same location for 2 days in a row. It's always easier, better when you can be in the same location for 2 days in a row, because you don't have to, like, if you're traveling a lot, it costs more money to get the company to travel. But we want to be there for 2 days in a row, but the only day he's available is one of those 2 days. So now all of a sudden you go to that place, and then you have to come back to do whatever this kid scene is, and then go back again to the other location. That costs more money. So there's just a lot of factors that go involved when you are completely beholden to this other person and their schedule. Yeah, but I digress. We've gotten really far down the rabbit hole.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those things that like, locations could be an entire episode on its own, talking about how it can have the impact versus being able to adjust and adapt inside studio. But if you only have a certain amount of time at this location, because their schedule on whatever location this is doesn't orbit around what you're doing, it has to orbit around all of the things that they're doing and your ability to tie in. And getting to see that from the outside now, we should definitely come back to it later.
That all being said, I have a feeling that's why Jeffrey Dean Morgan isn't, because they've had episodes where they'll show him on the phone, So that being said, I think in this episode it doesn't help them to have him present, because if he's present and then he's just like, you know what, figure it out yourself, he's clearly an asshole. So,
I mean,
my son's dying, no worries.
The episode's always going to be helped if Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad
anyway,
about that.
So I don't think that this is like taking orders from dad situation. And also, even if the right way of doing it was Joshua recommended this place, let me look into it first. No. Sam is desperate. His brother's dying.
Yeah.
He someone in his world, in this professional world, recommends that's good enough for him. He's going. They didn't even wait for a test. They just were like, Dean, go. You're first. Go.
Yeah. It seemed like Dean was more based in reality on this one.
Well, he's not the desperate one.
Exactly. It's the desperation. This is kind of the first time we've really seen Sam desperate.
Mm-hmm.
Dean's usually going in industry pro, and Sam's usually the one that's throttled in reality. I think this is one of the first times we've really seen him like, okay, we're just going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody recommended it. They check out as far as my filters are allowing me to do because of this desperation.
Yeah.
And so he pushes him up, that literally shoves him up toward the stage.
Yep. And Dean, in true form, has a sense of humor through the whole of it, making jokes like, I'm going to hunt that cuddly soft, what is it?
I wrote that one down.
Yeah.
The fabric softener teddy bear bitch.
I'm gonna hunt that little bitch down.
Okay, so legitimate question: is this foreshadowing to a future episode?
Do you want me to ask?
Are we going to hunt down the Downy Bear?
Do you want me to answer that?
No.
Okay, well then I'm not gonna answer it. So, and then also him making jokes, and Sam's like, "That's not funny." He's like, "It's a little funny." I actually have used that line a lot in life. Is like when I say something and someone's like, "That's not funny," I'm like, "It's a little funny."
Mm-hmm.
It's a Dean quote.
Noted.
And then also when Sam's like trying to help him like physically, and he's like, "Get off me!" Like, man, get off me! Like, what are you doing? I don't need your help. Very Dean.
All right, so we fast forward to Roy, the practically the televangelist, the tent pastor, the faith healer.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a guy who heals people in a tent.
He has his wife's name's Sue Ann, which it's very clear that up in Vancouver they were doing their research, because if a preacher's wife does not have at least 2 names. She's not authentic. So I did appreciate that. Even though we don't know where in Nebraska we are.
Yeah.
Just realized my accent's coming out a little bit, but we were talking about faith healers, so I had to. But now this hits another point, and I am checkboxing right now, but we were walking through the parking lot is being complimentary. They're walking through the mud pit, heading toward the tent. And they're getting to the tent, and you said, this is ADR.
Mm-hmm.
I was making jokes about something else at the time, but this is ADR. I have learned what this means, but this is one of those things that's a little more industry specific. Unpack that. What is it? What does it mean? And why did you say it in that situation?
Well, there's 2 things about that scene that I was thinking that pertain to the industry. The first, quickly, is that mud pit that you spoke about. I was like, I bet you when they picked that location, it was a bright and sunny day, and there was no mud. And then the shit rained, and they're like, fuck! Like, what are we gonna do? And they just have to make it work. They just gotta shoot. And I also bet that they shot both times that they go to the tent. They were on different days, once before and once after he was healed. They were shot on the same day, I bet, because both days the weather looked exactly the same. But then between those 2 days that we see in the storyline, we see not that weather.
Oh, the equally as shitty, drizzly, muddy weather.
Exactly. So I'm sure that they probably shot that exterior tent stuff all on the same day, regardless of the fact that in the story there are different days, just because the weather was exactly the same and the chances of that type of weather. I mean, I guess you could have a week straight of rain. I guess that's true, but it just seemed...
Yeah, quick sidebar on that. It was muddy at first, and then I noticed the second time they were coming in outside of the tent. You keep doing your good work, thank you. That it was drizzling the second time. It's possible that they shot those 2 together, like you just said, and at one point it started raining the same day.
Yeah.
They had been shooting on and off. Maybe it had been raining on and off, but they just decided to roll with it.
I think that the post-healed Dean was shot first when it was drizzling, and pre-healed Dean was shot second. Because makeup-wise, it makes more sense to add makeup to Dean, like making him look sick, versus cleaning it off and then redoing his makeup. So it would make sense that later, like, we're seeing this drizzling and this rain and everything happening post-healing Dean, because then later it's like all extra muddy and you can't really see that it's raining so much, but people have umbrellas. Like Layla had an umbrella, and I was like, is it raining? I can't really tell. But it seemed, the mud and everything seemed worse later. The mud seemed worse in the first scene than it did in the later scene after he was healed. And that would make sense if it had been raining.
So then it had been raining and they... Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's my suspicion based on the fact that it's easier to add makeup to a face than clean it off and then reapply the, like, natural look.
Sure.
Story-wise, it's obviously out of order, but if I was an AD, I would schedule it. I am an AD. If I was the AD scheduling it, I would schedule it that way. But there could be other factors too that I'm unaware of that could have made it different. But I think that that's how they probably shot it. But back to the original question, ADR. So it was really, really windy. You could see their hair, like Sam's, like
especially Sam's.
Yeah, Sam's moppy hair, kind of like being like thrown sideways because of how windy it was. and their clothes were kind of rippling in the wind. And I was like, I bet you a lot of this is ADR, because you could hear anything in the sound that it was windy.
One more step. What is ADR?
Oh, ADR stands for additional dialogue recording, and it is voice recording that happens after you've already shot it. It could be days, it could be weeks, it could be months after the fact. When they're putting together the sound mix, they're like, ooh, there's like a huge wind. Wind is one of the biggest things, like, or construction or something is happening in the background, and it's cutting out people's words and it's making it hard to hear. It's not clear. A lot of times the sounds that you hear in the background of the dialogue is a whole separate track of audio that they can raise and lower so that you can hear the voice clearly. And if a lot of noise is coming through on the mic that the actor is wearing, then there's no ability to lower that background noise, and it can conflict with your ability to understand and hear what the actor is saying. And so if it's difficult to hear, you're not getting a clear sound on the actor's voice, you have to have them come in later into additional dialogue recording, ADR.
So an ADR session.
Yeah, and
okay.
I don't know if it's different depending on who's doing it or whatever, but the way I've seen it done is they're watching themselves on the screen, and they have the line, and they match up. They match up with their own lips that they're watching whatever the dialogue is.
First off, that has to be super awkward for a while to watch yourself on screen to try to line it up. But no, the early parts of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, they were doing that. No, sorry, that was the music side. I'm trying to think of a time when we, the people who are not in the industry, have seen this happening. Because I'm picturing like a sound studio with a projector in it.
No, it's just like on a TV screen or a computer screen that they watch it. That I've seen being done. It could be different in other situations, but they also do it when they want to change the line, which people do tend to catch. They usually will be shooting over someone.
When they do
they'll shoot over someone's shoulder.
Yeah.
And onto whoever's not talking, and you can see like the side of their mouth moving, and you realize that is not what they're saying, and that's because they've wanted to change the line. But that's also would have been done in ADR as well.
Okay, so in general, they will shoot full volume, trying to do as many audio. They might do multiple audio captures. There could be a microphone, there could be a boom mic.
There's usually both, yes.
But regardless of how many different audio captures they have on set, they do have some options in post to clean up the audio that they did capture.
Yeah.
But if they can't do it, the post to clean it up enough, then it's pretty common that they'll pump it into ADR and just go reshoot.
Not reshoot, they re-record.
No, sorry. Yeah, re-record the audio, sorry.
Yeah.
And so they'll recapture that and then just overlay it to the original. And if they do it correctly, you can't tell the difference unless you've got somebody who works in the industry who's watching it and noticing that Sam's hair is blowing around, but the audio is perfectly clean.
Yeah.
And it could be it's not just an audio flub. It could be, like you said, construction noises.
Yeah.
I would have guessed maybe all the rain, mud, noise, cars. There's all kinds of factors that can be a factor there.
Yeah.
But if they can't clean it up in post without making it sound distorted or jacked up or whatever, then they'll just reshoot that audio bit later.
Yeah. I mean, the mics are underneath their shirts. Like, they usually tape it to their chest underneath their shirts. So the wind might not have been picked up all of the time, but what happens is when their clothes are rippling, it moves up against that mic, so you get this like sound happening because the fabric is rubbing on the mic. So that's a lot of times what will happen with wind, is that you can hear the fabric moving. Maybe they got super lucky, but with that heavy a wind, I would be shocked if none of those lines were ADR'd later.
Interesting. And if they do it clean enough, you can't tell which is which. You just have to assume.
Yeah. I was only basing it off of the fact that it was that windy, and I would be shocked if they got completely clean audio from that. Not because I could tell that their voices and their volumes weren't quite matched.
So it seems like actually just matching up the voice with the lip movements, it seems like that's a much easier portion of this process. I would think that would be the harder part.
It depends. And it also depends on how good that person is at doing it. The current star or number one, by the way, refers to their position on the call sheet. The call sheet is the schedule for the day. And they number the actors kind of, mostly it's based on their importance on the show, or if they are a huge star and they're not on the show, maybe they're not the star of the show, but they're a huge star in life, they'll still be number one. But number one is the top of the show, and then from there on down, it kind of goes in order of importance to the show. And
contract conversation.
Yes. And the number one on the show that I'm on is really good at it. They'll have 10 or 15 lines of ADR and they'll knock it out in like 10 minutes. And there's another person that's on the show who does frequent ADR too, series regular, and they will take, I think the other day they took 40 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah. So it just, some people are way better than others. And part of it's your experience with it. Part of it is your experience in life, too. Like if you were also a musician, maybe you have a better chance at it because you kind of feel the rhythm of it. But
I would guess maybe if you're older and you've been in the industry for longer, have more practice at it versus a newer. One thing I love about what we do, just pause on everything real quick. I love how we break out of it. Yeah, like we have not talked about the episode for like 20 minutes, but I find it incredibly fascinating. I think it's something that is super, super interesting that nobody else does, but it's still fun. And it might be character dynamics, it might be ADR, explaining what the word means and then what it looks like. But we pull back the curtain constantly in a lot of different directions.
Also, Layla probably had an umbrella because she's a girl and she has long hair, and the rain is going to affect that a lot more than a short-haired man.
Very relevant response. But it does pull us back into the story. No, I think that's awesome. But yeah, that was a good point. How old do you think Layla was? We talked about that at the end of the episode.
Probably, I'd say mid to late 20s.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what they were playing her as. I think the actress might have been a little bit older than that.
Okay.
But it's hard to say.
That's where I was.
But you made a comment about how her mom, she's too old of her mom to be carting her all around. I was like, yeah, but like, how?
That's where we got stuck.
So many mothers out there are like, cannot let go, you know? And Layla also doesn't seem like someone that's going to advocate for herself. And this is a mother who's about to lose her child. So I could totally foresee a mom that's like, no, I don't care what you want. We're doing this.
Additionally, we are in rural, small town Nebraska, which is just in general smaller towns, tighter knit families, tighter knit communities in general. So we could have a very close family where mom's leading the charge because this was the faith healing idea was hers first. Maybe she's been leading the entire medical process.
But I can totally foresee like a bull of a mother, who just will do whatever is needed, and in a lot of ways, what's the word, smothering her adult child, because she doesn't want to lose her, which is totally understandable. I'm not coming for mom here. Like, she was really fucking awful to Dean. That being said, you have to remember that she is desperate. She's desperate.
100%.
She's about to lose her daughter. Parents are never supposed to lose their children.
Right.
And so I am not coming for her at all, because I totally can understand where she's coming from. Does it excuse her behavior? No, but I'm like, it's very believable. It's understandable.
It's acceptable. Yeah. It's fiction that's believable because it's close enough to truth that we can relate to it.
Yeah.
So we can see that. Yeah.
People have probably done much worse, honestly.
Oh, as the parent smothering their child. Oh.
Well, and also like acting a fool because their child is dying. Quote unquote a fool, right? Like you're doing
wouldn't do this
and everything.
If your kid wasn't sick, you would never do this.
Yes.
And then in that case we got Darwin Awards that could be handed out for that. I get that. All right, so we go back in. We've got Dean, who's not believing. He gets mildly groped on the top of his head by this. It felt a little over the top, but hey,
his eyes were like, "What the fuck?"
If you see any ticks and you eat them, I'm leaving. But no, it was very strange. But it worked. Dean collapses. He feels so much better. Which, by the way, we did check the cutscene on this. If for those of you who are watching on the DVD, the deleted scene in this moment was actually
they intercut Dean being saved with the guy that ended up dying for Dean.
Right. So the 417, the swimming, and I'm kind of glad they cut it. It looked like it was late enough in the whole process of editing, because when you watch these deleted scenes, they just stop wherever they were.
Yeah.
By the time they cut it, and if you look at like animated CGI, sometimes they'll even just show the storyboard frames because they were that early in the cut scene. But this one, it looked like it was pretty far down the track.
Yeah, the sound mix wasn't there.
The sound mix wasn't there yet, right?
Yeah.
But the rest, I'm kind of glad they did, though, because it gave us too much information.
Yeah, it was really good that they cut that.
One of the great things about that episode was they left us in suspense for so long.
Yeah.
They gave us just these tiny little tidbits and left blanks.
Yeah.
All over the place.
What did you think when you first saw the Reaper, that Dean saw the Reaper on the stage?
They masked it enough that I just logged it. It was really interesting because we got to that point and they did the longer black screen space for ads for regular television at the time. And I was just like, damn. Okay. Because it was vague enough that you could tell that there was like this humanoidish metaphysical form. Mm-hmm. And they didn't give us jack on it. Mm-hmm. Like, what exactly is this? And I'll be honest, in retrospect, they didn't give us enough about what the hell he was doing there. They left that part alone, but it was really interesting. It was a neat little add-in.
Well, do you mean why the Reaper was there at all?
Yeah, for the whole rest of the episode, the Reaper was out in the field.
Oh, but
and he was sending it in.
No. So the Reaper can only be seen by the person that it's coming for. So the reason why you never saw it in the tent again was because the person that was being healed, we weren't seeing their perspective. Like, we saw it when Dean got healed because we were looking, the camera was Dean's eyes. So we were seeing it because Dean could see it. But outside of that, we weren't able to see it because we were no longer looking through the eyes of the person being healed.
But there was nothing in there that told us that the person being healed could see the Reaper. The Reaper's target, the victim, was the only person who could see the Reaper. That's what we were told before.
But Dean said it in the episode, that the reason why he could see it and not Sam was because you can only see a Reaper when it's coming for you. Right,
coming for you in order to kill you.
Or do what he did to Sam. Sorry, Dean.
Then what?
When the Reaper is there for you, whatever that purpose is, you can see it.
He takes and then he gives.
Yes. In this case, yes.
Yes, in this case. Just a Reaper, not a Grim Reaper. So if the whole process had gone through with Layla, then Layla would have been able to see the Reaper. The guy with the oxygen mask later, the obscure next person.
Yeah, they all
did see the Reaper. We just didn't get to see that.
Exactly, because we were not looking through. Every time we saw the Reaper on screen, it's because presumably the camera was the POV of the person either being healed or being chased.
Fine, I'll accept it. We can argue that point, but I'll accept it. But regardless, that was really intriguing. But at that point, they had been stacking it up so high that I was magnetized. Like, I was pulled in for sure. I wanted to see what was going on because I realized we didn't do a prediction corner last episode. I don't think.
I don't know. I don't remember.
But the whole faith being the name of the episode, I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be preacher-ish. It's going to be something down that element. But I did not expect where they went with it. But they had pulled me in. I was invested at this point. If we'd gone through a power outage, if you'd paused it, I would have been upset. So, yeah, I was in at that point. And the wisp above Roy's hand that showed the Reaper's face, one more piece. So it didn't necessarily strike me individually, but it was still really, really good.
So you enjoyed this episode, it seems.
I did. I liked this episode. I like the way that they're going. I'm always trying to look at how does the micro influence the macro? How does each episode contribute to the overall story arc? And I love the shows that play the big game. not just doing the same thing each time and eventually tying in. I liked it. I liked it a whole lot. And the further we go in, the more I'm just presuming that I'm going to like it from the beginning.
I mean, I
that.
told you that this string of episodes, most of the episodes to the end of the season, but like this particular disc, this disc, each disc has 4 episodes, and this 4 were all great. This
Which
is
I'm bummed because we're on the last one. You got to switch the discs next time.
Yeah. But you know, it's a good one. And also shout out to having the DVDs because we got to hear.
Okay. Yep. I'm so glad you're bringing this up. Yep. Please go ahead.
Don't Fear the Reaper. Is it by Blue Öyster Cult? I think it is. BOC, Blue Öyster Cult, Don't Fear the Reaper?
I think so.
Yeah. But that I don't want to even know what Netflix put in there, but the Reaper was going after this woman who's running through the woods, and we heard the song, Do Not Fear the Reaper. I'm just like, perfect. It's perfection. It's perfection.
You can come here for facts because that was Blue Öyster Cult.
This show got me super into classic rock, and so I was like all about like, you know, finding songs and downloading them and listening to them, and so I got into a huge kick. I still like that music, but I'm not nearly as like hooked on it as I was before, and so my memory of things has faded, but that one apparently stayed.
No, this one I get all of the rants up to this point before we got the DVDs. You were doing your thing. And I'm in full support of that. But I got it today. This made sense. The way that everything tied in, and it was the longer intro.
Dude.
Yeah, with the runner through the park. It was very well done. And I can see
how any other music would not be it.
Anything else would not have done. The only contrary point would be the house theme. I would put that in. The theme to House MD, which was also used in Prison Break. And it's just the way that thing has a build. If anybody knows what I'm talking about,
but it's Reaper.
You're getting it. I know. No, you got it. You get all the points for this one.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to having the DVDs.
Yeah, rep. So at a certain point, we need to go back to the career criminals portion of this and count the number of felonies that were committed.
I mean, he didn't break anything. He just entered.
That's not even all of it. False documentation for medical care.
Well, he gave him a false credit card.
Yes, that's a felony. And then we're going to have to come back around to this because I didn't think to do it before we started recording. But the question is, if you open a window that's unlocked, but then illegally enter a premise, is that still breaking and entering? Because your answer was that nothing was actually broken other than breaking in. So we're gonna have to go back and check on that one.
I don't know, man. Is anybody a lawyer? I'm not a lawyer.
But
look, he was saving lives.
Yeah, I think the Good Samaritan laws do have limits.
I don't know, man.
See, we're gonna have to check on this one. We're gonna have to double check. But either way, I thought that Dean had actually started a fire when he was trying to stop Layla's seance, her saving, her whatever.
He just called it out.
But as soon as he's
illegal to legally say there's fire and create a panic.
Would that be inciting a riot?
No, it's not inciting a riot, but it is illegal to yell like an emergency fire or whatever when there is no fire. Yeah,
disturbing the peace, I guess. What would you actually?
It's not disturbing the peace. I forget there is something that it's called, but I can't remember what it is. But it is illegal. We see false documents given to Dean getting medical treatment. Whatever Dean did in the tent to stop everything by screaming fire outside. But that was the first thing that I thought. It was okay. Yeah, I was thinking about this the wrong way. This career felon obviously started a fire outside, but he didn't. But it's still a crime. And then Sam finds a conveniently unlocked window and breaks into somebody's house. But look, they're saving lives. You have to let them break.
I mean, I am morally with you. But I think that the judges in all of these small towns across the country would feel differently.
Yeah, but that's the point, though. They leave and nobody even knows that they committed these crimes half the time. Like, who knows that he broke into their house?
I think the cops that got knocked the fuck out in that,
that's
the
different. That's
in
shop, this particular
probably
episode.
Remember. Oh, okay. So we're picking and choosing now.
I don't know why you're so hung up on
this.
Just
the thing
watch
is,
the show, man.
I never thought I would be asking this question going into a new show.
Look,
there should be a crime counter.
Just keep watching.
There really should be.
Just keep watching.
I'm going to. I'm going to regardless because this is fun. I enjoy making these episodes with you.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on Layla?
I don't think we got enough of her.
Yeah, she was great, wasn't she?
That's totally what I just said.
Well, no, you didn't get enough of her, meaning that you enjoyed what you saw.
Oh, no, I don't think we got enough for me to decide.
Oh, that's what you meant.
I thought she was kind at the beginning. She sort of eavesdropped and inserted herself into somebody else's conversation outside the tent, but I'm not holding that against her. But she was nice. I really thought she was going to at least get her smooch on Dean at the end of the episode, inside the hotel room, left alone. It seemed like the setup was there, but she didn't, and maybe that's a compliment to her.
Yeah, I liked her as a character. I think that
if she came back later, I wouldn't be upset.
She was so kind and so gracious.
Yeah.
So gracious. And, her mom was one thing, but, she was...
Her mom's.
Yeah, her
mom's different.
She's the one that's dying, and she's just accepting whatever it is going to happen. And, to her point, it sounds like it's based on her faith, right? Whether, you have to have faith when miracles happen and when they don't. And when they don't, then it seems like her kind of idea is that, it didn't happen for her, but it happens for other people, which is proof that miracle, that the faith is still true,
Yeah.
It's not going to happen for everybody, but the fact that they do happen, and it just wasn't meant for her. And just the accepting, she's just so gracious. I want to be that gracious in life.
Layla she hits a point, and she becomes very likable because she's very kind, and she's in a situation, it's hard to imagine another situation where you could blame somebody for being selfish. But she continues to be kind. She continues to be gracious. But she also hits this level of she has accepted her coming death. And I think you find people who have accepted mortality, truly accepted mortality, then you see the trueness of who they are come out.
And even though she knows she's dying, she could just be like, you know what? I'm just going to do whatever I want to do in my life, whatever. But she chooses to continue to give to others.
Yeah, she could act the way her mother is acting.
Yeah.
Especially with Dean getting called up on the stage as the first timer and her mom getting very mad about that. Layla could be that person. And you could not blame her for it.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean she is stronger or weaker because of that? I think you can make an argument for both sides.
I don't know if it's stronger or weaker. I think it is a mentality. And even the fact that she came and visited Dean after her miracle didn't work, he got it instead of her.
She gets to live. She's going to die.
Yeah, she doesn't even understand why or how it happened.
Yeah.
And she gives of herself yet again. She has there's no incentive or reason for her to have showed up at that hotel room other than she was willing to give of herself again to Dean.
Does that faith make her a better or weaker person?
I think it depends on how you look at it. I think it makes her a better person for her. I mean, imagine how her mother feels versus how she feels. Her mother is tearing herself, she's in agony, her mother, right? And Layla seems to be at peace, and it just really depends on how you look at it. But I think, the way that Layla has approached life at this point is very admirable. And at the end of the day, this whole miracle thing, maybe if she had pushed harder and been more of a quote unquote bitch about it, maybe she would have been saved. But then how would she have felt if she was saved? Dean was pissed when he found out that somebody died because of him. He was sort of yelling at Sam about it, and Sam was damn near in tears being like, I didn't know. But Dean was pissed. Do you think the type of person Layla has shown herself to be would have been okay at the end of the day of being saved because somebody else died? I don't think she would have.
Exactly.
And so I think being the way that Layla was served her very well in this circumstance, because even if she had been more of a bitch, at the end of the day, somebody would have died in her place. More of a bitch and pushed for it more like her mother did. Somebody else would have died in her place. And maybe her mom would have been fine with that because she gets to keep her baby.
That's 100%.
But I don't know that Layla would be okay with that.
And that's the part that I wonder, because you get to that position. Sam found out he was apologetic, but you can't necessarily say that he was approving of it, because they both went after the bad guy in this case. The monster of the week was the wife.
Yeah.
It was not the Reaper.
Dude, some of my favorite episodes of this series are when it's a human that's the monster, for all intents and purposes.
And we know 100% that the Reaper was not in support of this because of that side smirk that he had when he replied.
Was so happy.
Oh, man. I could feel every bit of that.
That actor that played the Reaper was good. He had no words.
Show don't tell.
But you still knew exactly.
Yeah, it's that phrase. When I was writing more and working with authors more, they had the phrase show don't tell. You don't just say that someone is angry. Have the character on the page do something that indicates that they're angry, so you don't have to say it. And the way that Reaper just smirked, it's like you could feel inside he felt that release of whatever kind of bondage there was, or whatever
he was
trap
trapped.
there was. And he noticed it. Whatever that felt like for him doesn't even matter. Oh, and then 10 seconds later, Sue Ann is out of the script.
And the thing is, what they could have done. They could have saved Layla by using Sue Ann as the person that died for her. The Reaper could have done.
That's what they.
But you want to know what? I think it's beautiful that they didn't.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful because it shows that, again, life doesn't always go the way you want to, and the person you are is how you handle when things don't go the way. A lot of people, you've said it too. I thought that person was so nice. I'm like, that person's nice when things are going their way.
Right.
That person's nice when they get what they want. The true measure of a person is how they act and how they behave when they're not getting what they want, when the miracle doesn't come through. And again, we're giving Mom a lot of grace because she's about to lose her baby. I'm not coming for her. She's a terrible person. None of that.
I can't say that anything that Mom would have done would have been something that I wouldn't do if I felt that desperate.
Yeah.
So, I know that's a sidebar from what you were saying.
Yeah.
I would have honestly loved if they could have given us even 20 or 30 seconds of Roy. Knowing, finding out, understanding after Sue Ann's stroke. It would have been really nice because he was being bold in his faith. And you can't condemn somebody for that.
No, yeah. Poor Roy, honestly.
Yeah. And that's what I asked at a certain point. I was like, okay, so wait a minute. He is using the Reaper, but is he aware? And at one point, they kind of let us believe that he knew that he was doing this. But then at the same time, they told us that he wasn't. Him finding out that, especially the desperation of he just lost his wife. He just lost the person that he was crediting in his own personal testimony that it was her faith that kept me alive. What happens if he finds out that she's now responsible for the death of at least 6 people?
The thing is, I don't think he ever would have found that out. I think Roy was left with a dead wife and I don't know why, but it's not working anymore. And maybe the only reason why it worked is because I had my wife beside me, but not knowing that she was doing this whole trapping Reaper thing. Because imagine going to someone like, your wife used black magic to entrap a Reaper. You'd be like, are you fucking crazy?
But I mean, if you're all in on this and you really do accept it, you feel full-heartedly like this is a reality because I have been living it, and we're staying off the topic of true and genuine or whatever. We're just saying in this story.
Yeah.
And if he loses her, is it better if he finds out that she was pulling the shoestrings, she was pulling the puppet strings on the evil side? Is it better for him to know?
No. I don't think so. I think you leave a man who had no idea what was going on in peace. It's kind of why you don't speak ill of the dead, right? In some ways. Because what's to be gained from that?
Is it an ignorance is bliss situation?
Yeah. The thing is, if he does know, what's to be gained from that? Other than him being more aware of this supernatural world. That's really all that he gains, is that there's more out there than he knew before, because it's not going to help him grieve any better. It's going to make it even harder in a lot of ways. And so I don't think there's anything to be gained for Roy other than this kind of little bit more of knowledge by learning that.
Which could really harm him to know this. Because, I mean, he was going all in.
Yeah.
And anytime, if you've ever been in a place in your life where you went all in spite of all logic, in that moment, the fear that the rug is going to be pulled out from under you is terrifying, and it stops a lot of people from going all in.
Mm-hmm.
And if they go all in for something that they feel is the right thing, it can be detrimental to them.
I mean, you could also argue that, like, but the thing is, it didn't seem like Roy had this in his heart. His wife was very much like, gay teacher, go after them. You know.
Her subjective morality is garbage.
As Dean said, you would think that God would save us from half the people who think they're doing God's work.
Yeah. He said, God help us from half the people. Yeah, you
would think God would save us from half the people that think they're doing God's work. Yeah.
And most of the time, people don't need to be saved from an evil force. They need to be saved from these people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that is a lot of, like, I mean, religion has obviously its purposes and it can be a very good thing, but it's also weaponized so much. It is
and has been.
God, it is sickening how much religion is weaponized, especially because the whole, like, it's just so saddening because I'm not super religious, but, like, I can imagine believing something so much and, like, really holding true to all these things. And then there's all these other people out there that are putting a bad name on this thing you believe in, like Christianity or whatever it happens to be, whatever religion it happens to be. You know, like, there's a lot of skepticism. You know, when somebody finds out somebody else is super religious, there can be a lot of skepticism. They're like, wait, what kind of religious are you? Are you the person that's going to, like, judge me hardcore and come after me and say that I'm a horrible person because I have a different belief than you? Or are you the type of religious person that, you know, is like, you have your solid beliefs and that's fine, but you're not going to come for others who don't believe the same thing that you do, you know?
It's a question of safety.
Yeah.
It's a question of personal safety. Do I need to be, can I be more trusting of you? Or do I need to put up my guard because of you?
Yeah.
And that's what makes this conversation so hard. I'm honest. I was nervous as we were watching this episode. I was nervous about recording it. Because it can be such a tender, dividing, sensitive. And I mean sensitive, like post-sunburn, touch the skin sensitive. Like, I have no ill intent toward you, but if I accidentally touch your shoulder after you get a sunburn, you're going to reel back. And I was nervous about hitting this area because the whole point of this is to be enjoyable. Mm-hmm. We're watching a sci-fi/fantasy show. We haven't talked about that yet. But we're watching a show to be enjoyable, recording something together as a couple to be enjoyable. But if anything that we have said up to this point, 12 episodes in, is going to divide, it's this moment right here.
Yeah.
And it's so scary to even approach it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my take is that those who are the people like Sue-Ann might get offended by something I've said.
Yep.
But those that aren't like Suzanne will understand it. I have plenty of friends that are religious and they go to church all the time and they're really into it and they fully agree with everything I just said. They're like, yeah. And I've had bad experiences at churches because of that, because of the Sue-Anns of the world. And
most have too.
And you've had your own experiences as well.
Yep.
You know, and there are places out there in the religious community that are very safe and they are very helpful and they help so many people. And I am all for those communities of people. It's the other ones that not only, like you said, are a question of safety,
right,
but on top of that, it makes me even more angry because those are the people that make people nervous about the good community that I was
talking about. It puts up this really big brick
Yeah.
wall around the concept of safety.
Yeah, like it's almost like I got to get to know which kind of religious person you are first, and that's horrible.
Yep.
That's horrible. I hate I hate having to approach something like that with caution when meeting a new person, you know? And I always let people tell me who they are, right? Like I don't just say, "Oh God, you're a religious person. Oh my God, get away from me." But I let them show me who they are.
That's what I was about to correct. I'd say you don't let people tell you who they are. You let people
Yeah.
show you who they are.
Yeah.
And then you believe them.
Yeah.
Which hits one of my life adages.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let me hit this hard from the side. Dean said at the end of the episode, "We did the right thing today, didn't we?" It doesn't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
That hit a layer. And I want to unpack a little bit about that.
Okay, go
The
ahead.
monster of the week was killed. But now we have Layla, who is still terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Dean, who got to get the first timer's discount and is now walking away from the situation, and Layla knows it. And we've got Layla's mom, who is still having to deal with her
Her
the
daughter.
all-in faith that she threw in
Mm-hmm.
is now coming out to a losing hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was really putting everything in on, okay, I'm going to have faith whether it works out or not. That's true faith, which is what Layla had.
Mm-hmm.
Mom is kind of weighing in on the unlimited faith as long as it's going to work out for her.
I can't pray any harder,
Yeah.
she said.
Yeah, and she was pissed at Dean because he got what she obviously feels like
Layla should
have had.
Yeah.
And now we got Roy, he feels like his entire purpose is being ripped apart.
Mm-hmm.
I looked into your heart and you had good things going. You still had a purpose that's not yet conditioned.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got Sue Ann, who is the monster of the week,
mm-hmm.
who has this incredibly fluid moral compass.
Mm-hmm.
She saved Dean because she decided he was a good guy,
Mm-hmm.
and then flipped as soon as she decided he wasn't a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then push it all over to Dean at the end, who is really, really struggling with, did we do a good thing today?
Mm-hmm. Well, you saw he didn't run from the Reaper at all.
That hit a sidebar that I wasn't really going to push into. Some people did try to run, but at one point it seemed like there was like a paralysis.
Yeah,
but they each hit, but they didn't address it. So
as soon as Dean saw that Reaper, he just let it happen. And I think my suspicion is because I don't think he thinks that he deserved to be saved.
Ooh.
And he also knows that Layla missed her chance. And so I think in Dean's mind, he's like, well, the worst that happens right now is that I'm dead how I was supposed to be, and Layla gets to live. And part of him is a self-sacrificing person. He puts himself in these dangerous situations all the time to save other people's lives. And so I guess in his mind, it's like, A, I was already supposed to be dead. B, it's part of my job to save people. C, Layla, her mom was not incorrect. Layla deserved, I mean, who's to say who deserves what, right? But like, my God, what a lovely, lovely human being who will be, it's tragic for her to not be on this earth,
Yeah, that's outstanding. I didn't even think about where Dean is at this point. He's proud of Sam for stepping out. He's always followed in Jeffrey Dean Morgan's footsteps. He's followed the family business. But then we saw 1 or 2 episodes ago where he was really proud of him. He was kind of commending Sam for being the one who had the courage to step out. Near-death experience at the beginning of the episode. And after he left the hospital, sort of Macho Man joking about, if I'm going to die, I'm not going to die in a hospital.
Without hot nurses.
Without hot nurses, yeah, that's true. It's a good point. But then there's also this undertow here of, it's very easy for Dean to perceive that somebody else has more value in their life than he does.
Mm-hmm. Their life is worth more, yeah.
Yeah, and for him to see that in her, that's an amazing point.
Mm-hmm.
So would you call Dean even mildly suicidal?
No, not suicidal. I think he's a martyr. Self-sacrificing.
Yeah. Self-sacrificing martyr.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be for a reason. He's not going to just kill himself to kill himself. Because killing himself...
That would be suicidal.
Yeah, killing himself would also leave his brother alone.
Yeah.
Gotta be there to protect his brother.
That's good. That's really good. And I wish I'd caught on to that, and I wish we'd have time.
I think Dean lives for other people, not for himself.
Predict 100%. That's why he can't stop. With his dad being in so much trouble and his brother needing to have protection and all of these roles that he feels like he has, it's why he can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
He cannot. I don't think that Dean can imagine himself doing anything else right now.
Mm-mm.
There's just no choice in the matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then, where do you think that Roy is going to go from here?
Well, I hope his faith carries him through. And I think that maybe he just, I don't know, goes back to just being a normal preacher. I don't know. Or
Was he a normal preacher?
I think he was a preacher before this all happened.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah. Just normal, though.
He
doesn't strike me as someone who would lose his faith easily.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
He strikes me kind of as a Layla type.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And then Sue-Ann over to Layla's mom.
Yeah.
Much more. I could see Sue-Ann's mom? Layla's mom, I could see her getting into the dark arts.
Yeah, to save her daughter.
To save her kid.
Mm-hmm.
They did... Okay, I'll do one more thing and then we can start getting to the end. Sue-Ann's motivator to get into exploring these dark arts, Sam and Dean were talking about it. She was desperate.
Mm-hmm.
Dean, I think, corrected. She was desperate.
Mm-hmm.
But then she started using it more. I feel like the emotion changed.
Yeah.
She wasn't desperate anymore after Roy was saved.
Mm-mm.
But why continue doing it?
Power. She felt like she was doing God's work.
I feel like there's a little more to it than that.
If you ask her, she's doing it because she's doing God's work.
100%.
The actuality is power, I think.
She had a moral authority that she was applying, and it was flexible.
Mm-hmm. Protester. The only thing that person did wrong was disagree with her.
Oh yeah, the columnist.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was a gay teacher, and then there was somebody else that as like an anti-abortion something like person that she also went after. The woman, the running woman, was an anti-abortion thing, and then the guy that died for Dean was a gay teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those are things she does not agree with for her religion, and so she came for them for that reason. Someone protesting. Well, maybe it is against some sort of something to be protesting against a religion. I don't know.
But they had different moral beliefs. That one wasn't even necessarily someone who partook in abortion.
Yeah.
It's that expanding scale of morality that is incredibly dangerous. Mm-hmm. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It fits into that same category, I think. Because the first time she used these dark arts, or whatever the case might be, it was to save a life.
Mm-hmm.
But then she started terminating life. She started trading life.
Yeah.
Based on her scale.
And I also think that's another thing that really bothers me about religion sometimes, is that there are so many different religions out there. Like, there's hundreds of different religions. And so what if your religion, enforcing another person whose religion is different from you to do something, goes against their religion? Why is your religion more important than their religion? That's what it's just like. Well, I don't know. I really don't like the idea of forcing somebody else to follow your beliefs, even if it means going against their beliefs in their religion. Now, obviously, some people's beliefs have nothing to do with religion, but there are, I don't know, it's a lot.
And without going too deep into my own history, because we just don't have the time, is that I heard someone say that our differences are either open-handed issues or closed-handed issues. If it's an open-handed issue, then we can disagree on it all day. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't change the fundamentals of what you believe or my perspective on what you believe. These are things that they're loose, they're non-impacting to the core, and we can disagree on them all day, and that's fine. The closed-handed issues are things that you can't believe differently than I do, and us still call ourselves the same thing. I have an issue with that. And there are some core tenets of different faiths that you can't have two different opinions and call yourself the same faith. And so we're not calling any of this out, but I think that the question here, and I think what makes this such a good episode, is that the open-handed issues are just simply not acceptable. You need to agree the way that I agree. You've got your gay teacher. You can make arguments if you are a person of Christian faith in the Bible that there's an issue with that. But somebody who is an anti-abortion protester is not necessarily somebody who has committed an abortion or who has decided to have
or even agrees with it.
Right.
They might just be fighting for other people's rights to be able to.
And that hits a whole area of current politics.
Oh, I know.
That you and I align on that. We can disagree with your decision, without being anti your decision. And we can disagree without being disagreeable, but it seems to be something that we don't really have at the moment. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But the fact that Sue-Ann's penalty for disagreeing with my morality is death. That's what she started handing out, and I guarantee that it didn't start that way. She had a Gollum situation where it just decayed, and it decayed, and it decayed, and it decayed, and she had no checks and balances because this is a whole secret. And by the time she was stopped, she was straight up committing murder.
Well, it's probably, there's two different factors in there: slippery slopes, and you can get used to anything if it happens slowly enough.
Right.
Like, you would boil to death in a bathtub of water as the temperature increases a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. You could boil to death because the change is so small incrementally that by the time
you're frogs.
It could happen to a person too.
Oh, okay.
But the idea is that if a change happens small enough changes, you can get to a danger zone without even realizing it.
Yeah. I feel like there's 12 different directions that we could keep going out of after this one, and maybe we'll come back around.
I mean, clearly this was a good episode.
We'd love to hear some comments. Yeah, I know.
We haven't even gone into so many other things.
I feel like we rushed through it. We've said that many times, that if they had more time in the episode, they could have gone deeper, and I feel like that's where we're at. But if we can come back around, like, subscribe, comment down below if you have an area that you'd like us to dig deeper into.
Yeah, maybe we could do a sidebar in a future episode.
Oh, yeah, we got sidebars.
But we do still need to do our usual thing. So favorite and least favorite.
Oh, you beat me to it. All right. Least favorite, still no Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
You need to come up with something new.
It's a good de facto, man.
No, man.
I think it is. This was a very good, well-paced, whodunit, what's going on. I feel like they gave us a lot of empty, incomplete sentences without making us feel like we were outside of the story. I felt engaged the whole time. I thought that from beginning to end, this was just a very well told episode.
I think the thing that was so great too is Dean said is I forget what I think you have the actual quote, which is essentially is I don't feel good about this. Like they won, but they didn't win.
Oh, did we do the right thing and feel like it?
Yeah. And I think that is such a amazing thing. Is they're not always going to. Sometimes they will just flat out lose against a bad guy, right? But in this case, it's not black and white. The
winning and losing isn't so subjective.
Yeah.
And you'll see as we fast forward into our other show that's an area that they love to tackle. Is that that's what makes it so hard. Is what is a win, what is a loss, what is the right thing, what is the wrong thing. It's hard to do. The Wendigo, that was easy.
Yeah. They saved
bad
people.
Creature keeps killing people, has to be stopped.
And they saved the people.
Yeah.
Great. Win.
Yeah. Tack it. Yeah. And we're going to keep moving on. But it isn't that clear in this one. Like this one, they left the episode kind of unanswered.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
They didn't have the car driving off into the sunset to the next adventure.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was intentional, but I think it's fitting.
I don't know. It was a beautifully done episode, honestly. So
really liked
my least favorite thing was the response that the pool worker guy had when Sam said, 417, is that when Marshall died? And he goes, how did you know? I'm like, what? Wouldn't your first response be like, that's really weird. That is about the same time. Like, what? What? This dude clocking exactly when he died, and also the fact that the clock stopped. Like, wouldn't your reaction be like, "What the fuck?
Yeah.
What?"
Well, and that was one of my.
I was like, that is not believable. I'm sorry.
And I'm glad they cut the scene.
Yeah.
Because, and that was one thing I was going to comment after we watched the episode. We go back and watch anything deleted, anything extra that we can find on it before we turn on the microphone. Is that pool guy was there? He was there doing CPR on this victim. Yeah. And then 3 days later, he's like, oh yeah, that's what time it was when I had a man literally dying underneath my chest compressions.
Like
he's fine.
He might know approximately the time that he died, but wouldn't your first reaction be like, what the fuck? The clock stopped at the exact fucking time?
And he's just like, we can't get it going. It was like, hang on, did you try to replace the batteries? It just felt so plot pushing.
It was so weird that he could have said he could have been like, whoa, that's really weird. That is about the time. Like, I would have believed something like that. Like, whoa, shit, I didn't even realize it. But yeah, you're right.
Right.
As opposed to, how did you know? Like, what?
Yeah, that felt shallow. Okay.
That's a good one. So that's my least favorite.
That's a good one.
My favorite is Layla, I think.
Really?
Yeah, she was just such a great character. I feel for her. And I want to be like a Layla in life. Not necessarily like...
Really?
I want to be...
I can hold you accountable.
I want to be like Layla in how she accounts for herself in this world. Not necessarily with like, being like, you can only believe in, you have to have faith when the miracles happen, all that, like the religious stuff, whatever, for me personally, but just the grace that she has, and the way that she, even though she essentially is, dying, she still wants to give to other people. Like, she doesn't have, but she wants others to have. And that's just that's something that we all should be striving for, to be like.
Would you call it an inner peace?
Yeah, sure. But I also think even if she wasn't dying, that's still the person she is,
Well, and that's what that's what I wonder, because you see people that have that in general, and then you see people that get to a major point in their life. A more counter extreme example of that is, what's her name? The girl from Fight Club. I just forgot her name entirely, but she had the assumption that she could die at any moment, and the only tragedy was that she didn't. And of course, that's a much more sarcastic way to play into that role. But she had a certain inner peace as well, for completely different reasons. She was not a kind person.
Yeah.
But that inner peace to feel is like she didn't really struggle with most things because of that.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it is just giving up control, and Layla seems to have given up control because she's just letting God or whoever, or whatever,
she's letting the cards play themselves out.
Yeah, she's letting God or whatever, faith, whatever, basically have the control. And I think what a lot of us get mixed up in is just wanting control, not necessarily thinking we need to control this, but trying to do something. Right. You're like, her mother is trying and trying and trying, and she's not thinking I need to control this. She's just thinking I can't stop trying.
Right.
And in a way, the trying is trying to control.
And I think that's a level of enlightenment, is to not have control, because in reality we 100% do not.
No.
And it a lot of times takes people to get to a point of that. I mean, the bucket list is a really phenomenal example of that realization. These two guys get a terminal illness. They realize they've only got so much time left to live, so they just live. But yeah, that realization, I would wonder, I'd love to go back in time a few years before Layla's diagnosis to see if she was still that way.
Yeah, maybe.
Or did it take a terminal illness in order for her to accept that? But I think she's better for it.
Yeah, and I think too, it's important to note that you don't have to necessarily be giving up control to God or an entity or a religion or whatever either. You don't even have to think about it in that way. It's just, again, as you said it, we don't really have control. And we can steer things. Like, I can control whether I get paid by going to work or not going to work, right?
Sure.
We're not talking about those simple things. We're talking about things that are beyond, like brain cancer that's inoperable, things that you literally there is nothing to be done. Those are the things that is going to be, her mother did not want to give up that control. She wanted to keep trying, and wasn't accepting that there is nothing that she can do.
Right.
But Layla did.
I thought your favorite was going to be the Reaper.
The Reaper itself?
The actor, the character, the way they played each other.
I mean, they're great. And there's a lot of great things in this episode. I also love Dean's humor in the face of dying and, like, dude, get off me and all that. I do love all those moments. And for once, Sam has to save his brother.
Right.
I do. There's a lot of things I could talk about, but I don't know. Layla, I've always loved her character. And she's the type of person that we all should strive to be in the way that she operates. Not necessarily in her belief system or whatever, just the way that she approaches life, I guess. I think we'd all be better off if we did.
That's big. I like that.
So what's your favorite part?
We already did that. Didn't we?
You said your least favorite part was no Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Oh, well, yeah, that was obvious. Did we not do favorite? Oh. I mean, the raw head, obviously.
What?
No, man, I thought I already answered it, so
Well,
I haven't even thought about it.
If you already said it, then what is it?
It's okay. Fine. It's a little more overarching. It's a little macro. So I'll cash it in. I think that the approaching the faith healer element is incredibly dangerous. It's risky, and to be able to do it in season 1 and to be able to execute it very, very well, I respect that from a story side. So maybe the favorite part was Eric Kripke on this one.
Well, to be fair, this is 2006. There's a very different climate, politically, religion, or whatever back then.
But faith healing, I'm trying to remember the Steve Martin movie. There's Steve Martin about faith healing. This was not a new concept.
Well, no, I know faith healing is not a new concept, but I think we as a country were not as divided as we are now, and it wasn't as hot button of an issue.
I'm going to respectfully push back on that one.
Okay. I just don't remember it being such a big thing back in 2006.
In Michigan.
Sure.
Yeah. Have you seen Leap of Faith? Steve Martin movie? I looked it up, guys. Steve Martin, 1992. It was a straight up fictional but call out of that.
Okay.
Faith healing, roaming tents, take as much money as you can before you move on. It's a phenomenal movie. We are going to watch that movie.
All right.
It's wonderful.
It's fine. I stand corrected. Don't come here for facts. Okay. So that being said, we were really pushing the time on this one. Next episode is Route 666 or Route 666. What do you think?
Well, I mean, this is interesting because I had a whole lot of Route 66 growing up in my world. My mom's hometown, Route 66 runs very nearby.
It's 666.
Yes, I'm aware. It's not the exact same thing. So I'm assuming if we're going to counterpoint faith, Route 666 is going to have something to do with hell. Road tripping, maybe they'll actually give us locations on this one. We might have some more baby because it actually has to do with the road. All right, I'm going to guess we have an evil hitchhiker that kills the people that pick him up, and it's going to be a multi-state experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Official
prediction. This used to be one of my more favorite ones, Route 66, for some reasons, but now looking back on it, I'm like, there's some good things in it, but there's also kind of from here on out, a few episodes ago, from here on out for the rest of the season, there's a lot of really good episodes. This is not one of them.
I was about to say, it sounds like it was the letting off the gas of this really good streak of episodes, in your opinion.
And I don't think it's necessarily a bad episode. I just think that
it didn't hold up.
Yeah, it's kind of like 2005 Cavaliers.
Oh goodness! If you know, you know.
Yeah.
I disagree with you on that one, but that's okay.
Really? You think 2005 is as good as
it was a
2?
Phenomenal piece of artistry, but it's a conversation for another time.
Mm-hmm. And a different podcast, probably.
And a completely different podcast. But that was a really, really fun one. I'm glad we got to do it.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I keep saying that, though.
I know you do. Yeah, we got to figure out what's coming next. Also, anything else that we missed. Anything that could have been a conversation topic. If there's a corrections corner that we need to have, let us know. I think there's comments on everywhere that we're streaming to right now.
And remember, this is not facts. These are opinions, and you're entitled to yours, and we're entitled to ours. It's no big deal.
Are we at the point where we have to start saying that now?
I don't know, actually.
I'm so excited. Yeah, so all right, well, let's go ahead and hit the next one, and the next episode. Don't look at me in that tone of voice, you weirdo. You gotta set it up.
366? 66, 666,
No. What?
Set what up?
Are you drinking?
Yes, water.
You have. There's some caffeine over there, and I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, that is true.
But you always have to remember,
Oh, right. Driver picks the music.
Shotgun shots is K Cole. Guys, I'll work on it. All right. So then I guess until the next time.
Bye.
Bye.